Both of them swung their wands up and over their shoulders. Expelliarmus! There was a dazzling flash of scarlet light, and Lockhart was blasted off his feet. He flew backwards off the stage, smashed into the wall and slid down it to sprawl on the floor. Malfoy and some of the other Slytherins cheered. Hermione was dancing on tiptoes. Do you think he's all right? She squeezed through her fingers. Who cares? Said Harry and Ron together. Lockhart getting on Celeste's feet. His hat had fallen off and his wavy hair was standing on an end. Well, there you have it, he said, tottering back onto the platform. That was a disarming charm, as you see. I've lost my wand. Ah, thank you, Miss Brown. Yes, an excellent idea to show them that, Professor Snape. But if you don't mind my saying so, it's very obvious what you're about to do. If I had wanted to stop you, it would have been only too easy. However, I thought it would be instructive to let them see. Snape was looking murderous. Possibly Lockhart had noticed because he said, "Enough demonstrating. I'm going to come amongst you now and put you all into pairs. Professor Snape, if you'd like to help me." They moved through the crowd, matching up partners. Lockhart teamed Neville and Justin Finch Fletchley, but Snape reached Harry and Ron fast. Time to split up the dream team, I think, he Snape. Weasley, you can partner Fink with Potter. Harry moved automatically towards Hermione. I don't think so, said Snape, smiling coldly. Mr. Malfoy, come over here. Let's see what you make of the famous Harry Potter. And you, Miss Granger, you can partner Miss Bulstrode. Malfoy strutted over, smirking. Behind him walked a Slytherin girl who reminded Harry of a picture he'd seen in Holidays with Hacks. She was square, large, and a heavy jaw darted aggressively. Hermione gave her a weak smile, which she did not return. Face your partners, called Lockhart back on the platform, and bow. Harry and Malfoy barely inclined their heads, not taking their eyes off each other. One's ready, shouted Lockhart. When I count to 3, you cast your... One's at the ready, shouted Lockhart. When I count to 3, cast your charms to disarm your opponent. Only 2 disarm them. We don't want any accidents. 1, 2. Harry swung his wand over his shoulder, but Malfoy had already started on 2. His spell hit Harry so hard he felt as though he'd been hit over the head with a saucepan. He stumbled, but everything still seemed to be working. And wasting no more time, Harry pointed his wand straight at Malfoy and shouted, "Look, Stumpier!" No, Rick's Stumper. A jet of silver light hit Malfoy in the stomach and he doubled up, wheezing. I said, disarm only. I said, disarm only. Lockhart shouted in alarm over the heads of the battling crowd. As Malfoy sank to his knees, Harry had hit him with a tickling charm and he could barely move for laughing. Harry hung back with a vague feeling it would be unsporting to bewitch Malfoy while he was on the floor. But this was a mistake. Gasping for a breath, Malfoy pointed his Malfoy pointed his wand at Harry's knees, choked Telegra, and next second, Harry's legs had begun to jerk around out of his control in the kind of quick step. Stop, screamed Lockhart. But Snape took in charge. Finet incantatum, he shouted. Harry's feet stopped dancing. Malfoy stopped laughing and they were able to look up. A haze of green smoke was hovering over the scene. Both Neville and Justin were lying on the floor, panting. One was holding up an ashen-faced Seamus, apologising for whatever his broken one had done, but Hermione and Millicent Bulstrode were still moving. Millicent had Hermione in a headlock and Hermione was whimpering in pain. Both their wands lay forgotten on the floor. Harry leapt forwards, pulled Millicent off. It was difficult. She was a lot bigger than he was. Dear, said Lockhart, skipping through the crowd, looking at the aftermath of the duels. Up you get, Macmillan. Careful there. Miss Fastwit, pinch it hard. It'll stop bleeding in the second boot. I think I'd better teach you how to block unfriendly spells, said Lockhart, standing flustered in the midst of the hall. He glanced at Snape. Let's have a volunteer pair. Longbottom and Finch Fletchley. How about you? Bad idea, Professor Lockhart, said Snape, gliding over like a large and Navarone cat. Longbottom causes devastation with the simplest spells. We'll have to be sending what's left of Finch Fletchley up to the hospital wing in a matchbox. How about Malfoy and Potter, said Snape, with a twisted smile. Excellent, said Lockhart, gesturing Harry and Malfoy in the middle of the hall as the crowd backed away. to give them room. Now, Harry said, look up. When Draco points his wand at you, you do this. He raised his own wand, attempted a complicated sort of wobbling action and dropped it. Snape smiled at Lockhart. Great. As Lockhart quickly picked it up, saying, whoops, my wand is a little overexcited. Snape moved closer to mine too. Now, Harry, said Lockhart. When Draco points your net, Snape moved closer to Malfoy, bent down and whispered something into his ear. Malfoy smirked. As you too. Harry looked nervously at Lockhart and said, Professor, could you show me that looking thing again? Scared, muttered Malfoy, so that Lockhart couldn't hear him. You wish, said Harry out of the corner of his mouth. Lockhart cuffed Harry merrily on the shoulder. Just do what I did, Harry. What? Drop my wand? But Lockhart wouldn't listen. 3, 2, 1, go, he shouted. Malfoy raised his wand quickly and bellowed, Sepsontia. A long black snake shot out of it, fell heavily onto the floor between them and raised itself ready to strike. There were screams as the crowd backed swiftly away, clearing the floor. Don't move, Potter, said Snape lazily, clearly enjoying the sight of Harry standing motionless. Allow me, shouted Lockhart. He brandished his wand at the snake, and with a long bang, the snake, instead of vanishing, flew 10 feet into the air and fell back to the floor with a loud smack. Engraved, hissing furiously, it slithered straight towards Justin Finch and raised itself. Fangs exposed, poised to strike. Harry wasn't sure what made him do it. He wasn't even aware of deciding to do it. All he knew was that his legs were carrying him forward, that he was on casters, and he had shouted stupidly at the snake, "Leave him!" Miraculously, inexplicably, the snake, "Leave him!" And miraculously, inexplicably, the snake slumped to the floor, docile as a thick black garden hose. His eyes now on Harry. Harry felt the fear drain out of him. He knew the snake wouldn't attack anyone now, though he knew how he knew it, he couldn't have explained. was looking at Justin, grinning, expecting to see Justin looking relieved or puzzled or even grateful. But certainly not angry and scared. "What do you think you're playing at?" he shouted. And before Harry could say anything, Justin had turned and stormed out of the hall. Snape stepped forward, waved his wand, and the snake vanished in a puff of black smoke. Snape too was looking at Harry in an unexpected way. It was a shrewd and calculating look, and Harry didn't like it. He was also dimly aware of an ominous muttering all around the walls. Then he felt a tugging on the back of his robes. "Come on," said one, voice in his ear. One stared out of the hall, Hermione hurrying alongside them. Harry didn't have a clue what was going on. Neither Ron or Hermione explained anything until they had dragged him all the way up to the empty common room. Then one pushed Harry into an armchair and said, "You're a Pottermore. Why didn't you tell us?" "I'm a what?" said Harry. "A Pottermore. You can talk to snakes." "I know," said Harry. I mean, that's the only time I've ever done. I accidentally set a boa constrictor on my cousin Dudley at the zoo once. Long story. But it was telling me it had never seen Brazil, and I sort of set it free without meaning to. That was before I knew I was a wizard." "A boa constrictor told you it had never seen Brazil." "And I sort of set it free without meaning to. That was before I knew I was a wizard." "A boa constriction." "So," said Harry, "I bet loads of people want to do it." "Oh no, they can't," said one. "It's not a very common gift." "Harry, this is bad." "What's bad?" said Harry, starting to feel quite angry. "What's wrong with everyone?" "Listen, if I hadn't told the snake not to attack Justin..." "Oh, that's what you said to it." "What do you mean? You were there, you heard me." "You could have been saying anything. No wonder." Justin panicked. "It sounded like you're egging the snake on or something. It was creepy, you know." Harry gaped at him. "I spoke a different language, but I didn't realise. How can I speak a language without knowing I can speak it?" Ron shook his head. Both he and Hermione were looking as though someone had died. Harry couldn't see what was so terrible. "Do you want to tell me what's wrong with stopping a dirty great snake biting Justin's head off?" he said. "What does it matter how I did it as long Justin didn't have to join the Headless Hunt? It matters." said Hermione, speaking at last in a hushed voice, because being able to talk to snakes was what Salazar Slytherin was famous for. That's why the symbol of Slytherin house is a serpent. Harry's mouth fell open. Exactly, said Ron. And now the whole school is going to think you're his great grandson or something. But I'm not, said Harry with a panic he couldn't quite explain. You'll find that hard to prove, said Hermione. He lived about 1,000 years ago. For all we know, it could be. Harry lay awake that night. There were gaps in the hangings around his four-poster. He watched snow starting to drift past the window tower and wondered, could he be a descendant of Salazar Slytherin? He didn't know anything about his father's family after all. The Dursleys have always forbidden questions about his wizarding relatives. Quietly, Harry tried to say something in partial terms. The words wouldn't come. It seemed he had to be face to face with a snake to do it. But I'm in Gryffindor, Harry thought. The sorting hat wouldn't have put me in here if I had Slytherin blood. Ah, said the nasty little voice in his brain. But the sorting hat wanted to put you in Slytherin, do you remember? Harry turned over. He saw Justin next day in herbology and unexplained that he'd been calling the snake off, not egging it on, which he thought angry, pummeling his pillow. Any fool should have realized. By next morning, however, the snow had begun in the night had turned into a blizzard so thick that the last herbology lesson of the term was cancelled. Professor Sprout wanted to fit socks and scarves on the mandrakes, a tricky operation she would entrust to no one else. Now that it was so important for the mandrakes to grow quickly and receive Mrs. Norris and Colin Creevy. Harry fretted about this next day of 5 in the Gryffindor lesson. Harry fretted in the Gryffindor common room. Well, Ron and Hermione used to listen off to play a game of wizard chess. For heaven's sake, Harry said, Hermione exasperated. There's one of us bishops wrestlers here her night off his horse and jumping off the board. Go out fine, Justin finished fletchily, if it's so important to you. So Harry got up and left the portrait hall, wondering what Justin might be. The castle was darker than it usually was in daytime because of the thick, swirling snow at every window. Shivering, Harry walked past classrooms where lessons were taking place, catching snatches of what was happening to within. Professor McGonagall was shouting at someone who, by the sound of it, had turned his friend into a badger. Persisting their eyes to take a look, Harry walked on by, thinking that Justin might be using his free lesson to catch on some work, and decided to check the library first. A group of Hufflepuffs who should have been in herbology were indeed sitting at the back of the library, but they didn't seem to be working. Harry could see that their heads were close together and they were having what looked like an absorbing conversation. He couldn't see whether Justin was among them. He was walking towards them when something of what they were saying met his ears. He paused to listen, hidden in the invisibility section. So anyway, a stout boy was saying, I told Justin to hide up in our dormitory. I mean to say, if Potter's marked him down as his next victim, it's best to say if he keeps a long profile or a while. Of course, Justin's been waiting for so long for something like this to happen ever since he let Potter slip. He was a muggle born. Justin actually told him he'd been down for eating. That's not a kind of thing you'd find you were just living high on the loose. You definitely think it's Potter, then, Ernie, said a girl with blonde pigtails anxiously. Hannah, said the stout boy. He's a parcel mouth. Everyone knows that there's a mark of a dark wizard. Have you ever heard of a descent, one who could talk to snakes? They call Slytherin himself Serpent Tongue. There's heavy murmuring at this, and Annie went on. Remember what was written on the wall? Enemies of the higher beware. Potter has had somewhat sort of run-in with Filch. Next thing we know, Filch's cats attack. The first year, Creevy was knowing Potter at the Quidditch match, taking pictures of him where he was lying in the mud. Next thing we know, Creevy's been attacked. He always seems so nice, though, said Hannah uncertainly. And well, he's the one who made, who disappear. He can't be all bad, can he? Ernie lowered his voice mysteriously. The Hufflepuffs bent closer and Harry edged nearer so he could hear Ernie's words. No one knows how he survived that attack by who. I mean to say, he was only a baby when it happened. He should have been blasted into smithereens. Only a real powerful dark wizard could have survived a curse like that. He dropped his voice until it was barely more than a whisper, and it said, that's probably why, he wanted to kill him in the first place. Didn't want another Dark Lord competing with him. I wonder what other powers Potter's been hiding. Harry couldn't Harry couldn't take it anymore. Clearing his throat loudly, he stepped out of the bookshelf. If he hadn't been feeling so angry, he would have been found the sight that greeted him funny. Every one of the Slytherins of the Hufflepuffs looked as though they'd have been petrified by the sight of him, and colour straining out of Ernie's face. "Hello," said Harry. "I'm looking for Justin Finch Fletchley." The Hufflepuff's worst fears had been confirmed. They looked fearfully at Ernie. "What do you want with him?" "I wanted to tell him what really happened with that snake at the dueling club," said Harry. Ernie bit his white lips and then, taking a deep breath, "Then you noticed that after I spoke to it, the snake backed off." "All I saw," said Ernie stubbornly, though he was trembling as he spoke, "was you speaking past time and chasing the snake towards him, Justin." "I didn't chase it to him," said Harry. Harry said, his voice shaking with anger. It didn't even touch him. It was a very near miss." And in case you're getting ideas, he added hastily, "I might tell you that you can trace my family back through the 9 generations of witches and warlocks, and my blood's as pure as anyone's else. So that's all for today. Bye."